guys, I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to come on and read on the topic of Havana Syndrome. I'm sure you've heard of it, but I'll just give a quick explanation. This is a term that has been given to a sort of mysterious kind of attack that's been happening to US officials and maybe officials, I think also in other countries, but it seems to be mostly targeting US officials. I'll just read from Wikipedia. Havana Syndrome is a set of medical signs and symptoms reported by US and Canadian embassy staff first in Havana, Cuba, dating to late 2016, and subsequently in other countries. The U.S. Department of State has referred to the events as unexplained health incidents. In 2018, U.S. diplomats in China reported problems similar, as did undercover CIA agents working in other countries. Interesting. Some of these CIA agents were working on missions aimed at countering Russian covert operations. It's some sort of brain injury is the result. There's no consensus on a formal determination of the cause, although many sources suspect Russian military intelligence. Symptoms are described as hearing loud sounds in your head, uncomfortable pressure, as if you're being hit with a beam of energy, vertigo, vision problems, difficult concentrating, hearing loss. And it seems very directed because people nearby don't feel it, but just the person feels it. There are about 200 to 300 Americans now who have reported symptoms of Havana Syndrome. Almost half of those 200 are linked to the CIA, with possible cases in Berlin and Vienna and on every continent but Antarctica. It's getting in the news a little more because Kamala Harris was going to Vietnam and they had to sort of put things off. They had to delay her flight because some people there had reported it. And now there's a member of the CIA director's team that has reported to have this. There's also a bill called the Havana Act that has just passed unanimously in the House and is now on Biden's desk. It authorizes new funding for treatment, and I'm guessing research and analysis into what's going on and how to deal with it. And the U.S. has referred to the Havana Syndrome as the result of a sort of attack. Other times they call it, instead of referring to these as attacks, they refer to them as anomalous health incidents, which almost questions whether they are attacks. And one thing that always strikes me when this comes up in the news is the idea that we don't know is strange to me, because it's either, I would guess maybe we do know what it is, but there's a reason that they have to pretend they don't know what it is. Maybe because we don't understand this technology yet, or maybe because they think it would make people freak out. I don't know. Some sort of national security reason. Then the other possibility is that the US honestly doesn't know what this is, and that's even scarier to me because someone knows what it is. I don't think that it's just, some kind of hysteria. Sometimes this lasts for a long time, something's been permanently altered in their brain and they suffer certain uncomfortable symptoms. All I know is there's something kind of chaotic and weird about it. I don't know that how the cards will answer this, but we'll just see what we get. And I always do these readings in this way, so if anyone wants to follow along, they can follow along. And also you might get something in the cards as well. And feel free to share in the comments. So I guess we'll just see what we get on Havana Syndrome. I'd like to understand what this is and what the purpose of this is. Is it an attack from a foreign country? Is it an attack from our own country? By that I mean traitors within the ranks. And I should say, as always, this is based on my own curiosities and opinions and what I feel I get from my cards, for entertainment only. Is more going to come out about this? And why? Is it really meant to hurt the individuals specifically, or is it meant to create chaos and sort of paranoia in our country to sort of add to all the other chaos and paranoia that's been growing in our country since 2016 when this also started? Is this just like a game? This is the Tarot of the Divine. Beautiful deck. So let's see what we get. Havana Syndrome. Havana Syndrome. Okay. Strength. Well, I would say this is a validation that this truly is real. You know, it's not imagined by these people, and that it's a really strong weapon. This woman is sort of has her foot on this lion, or is it an alligator? I don't know. This deck is so cool and creative, but this beast. So there's an element of control and getting the upper hand over something. Let's see. So we've got strength. I think that just the simplest read on that is just that it's strong and it's real. Watching back, I'm also getting an element of bullying and trying to dominate and also humiliate. And it's an attempt at some kind of control. The Magician, interesting. I do think, you know, of course it seems to be, like I called it, just generally some sort of energy attack. They are using a technology that we don't fully, we at least as laypersons, citizens that don't know, don't understand that this is a technology that apparently people are using, which makes it very mysterious. And look at these major arcana here, Strength and the Magician. The Magician is also a card of power, manifestation. This like takes me to, yeah, whatever the technology is that they're using, it's sort of what we would consider magic. I mean, these weapons that just go straight to the brain, it's just very strange. So I think you guys know I add these voiceovers a lot because I continue to get clarity and messages after I turn the camera off or when I watch the recording back, especially if I continue to mull over the topic and the cards, which I did a lot on this. And I do feel I got a more succinct understanding as time went by, so I hope it's not annoying that I add these voiceovers. I just have to feel personally like I got it right to my satisfaction before I can put the video out. So that said, I want to add that for me, the Magician card often represents a network, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I get the feeling of a network as the main theme or takeaway of this reading. I believe a network is behind these attacks, and the network is not defined by borders or known established governments. It operates outside of these things and is defined by fascist principles and greed. And you'll see more of what I'm saying in the cards as we go. And this is just my opinion based on my cards for entertainment only. Also, I do have to believe there are U.S. government employees in this network who communicate to those in the field in other countries to coordinate these attacks. And I believe the goal is to create fear and confusion more than anything else, and to create an appearance of a weak or unstable government in an unstable world, because not that they'll pull it off, but I guess that makes it easier to topple power so they can swoop in and take it. And I'm not trying to create fear. It actually can be calming to understand the big picture. And this is actually not new. History is full of groups wanting to overthrow government. Just remember that they're up against the majority of people, intelligence, laws, and powers who are going to stay calm and strong and united against whatever this is. What do we have on the surface of the situation? The Tower. I knew I was going to get this. And look at this, a third major arcana. So this is like major. Systems falling. And And look at that, there's lightning here. Because I also wonder, you know, is there something electrical about it? Electromagnetic? Maybe there's something about this that is gonna wake us up to a bigger picture or something. It's like our whole understanding of things is sort of in this kind of free fall. I'm thinking now with this tower card at the surface about other mysterious attacks we're enduring that feel like little acts of war, like the ransom cyber attacks on hospitals and major companies and grids that provide major services to Americans that they can't quite trace to any one government for retaliation. Though again, Russia does seem to come up a lot in that as well. And of course, we have the barrage of disinformation, making people paranoid, hateful, and unvaccinated, so our hospitals are overflowing. Of course, we had the January 6th insurrection and the mysteries of how that was pulled off, plus so many similar eruptions happening at places like school board meetings across the country, where people are reporting that the same people are showing up. So-called parents at different schools, almost like a traveling army, making sure it's a big, loud, crazy scene that will make the news. And all of this feels like the goal is death or at least weakness by 1,000 cuts. And these cuts are not just physical, but psychological, traumatic. Probably to scare and bully people out of government jobs, to get their own elected. I know conservatives are teaching classes now on how to take over governments in their small towns. Of course, they won't be serving American values, but the values of the network, trying to take over or at least mess with liberal democracies left and right. But they're up against a humanity that is grounded in reality and empathy, which is like their kryptonite. So let's see, the near past. What's in the past of this situation? King of Swords. This would be someone with knowledge. Someone got the knowledge, got the information on. It's like, yeah, this takes me to someone who has gotten the information of this particular type of weapon. I mean, this King of Swords is holding a sword, and the knowledge of whatever this technology is, and then what? I'm feeling this King of Swords as either an Erik Prince type or Erik Prince himself, and I just looked him up to be sure I get his military background right. He was a Navy SEALs and owned his own military for hire company that was dissolved after his trained soldiers murdered civilians. And I'm now seeing this article I'd never seen before from Time magazine, July 21st. Documents reveal Erik Prince's $10 billion plan to make weapons and create a private army in Ukraine. To me, this sounds a lot like that network of power I was feeling, operating outside an established government, even to the extent of having his own army, not defined by a national identity or set of morals, but driven by money and, like I felt, deeply fascistic principles of superiority over the rest of us, who they'd like to scare and control. Forgot to do Beneath the Surface. Well, let's do Beneath the Surface now. Like I've said in another reading, I keep forgetting to do Beneath the Surface, and it just makes me feel like because everything's coming up now, there's like nothing beneath the surface now. It's just all in our faces. Nope. 10 of coins. Lots and lots of money. Wealth. All the money. Generational money. Huh. So definitely money is tied into whatever this scheme is. Okay. Some of this could also, even though I know this started when Trump was president, okay, but it doesn't matter who was president. I really think it's like someone wants to take down, I think like America is the tower. Yeah, I do. I think it's like an attack on America. Yikes. what's coming in the near future out of this situation. Two of Wands. Okay, yeah, we're entering into we're crossing a threshold into a new conversation. So I'd expect this, I mean, it's gonna keep going forward, and it's sort of the beginning, this would be like the beginning of a new journey, like the beginning of a new journey, taking those first steps forward.
I do feel this as positive progress and planning, by the way, probably relating to Biden moving forward on the Savannah Act and other congressional actions or investigations on this situation. Kind of like looking behind the curtain. And for all of us, it opens up a new realization of things, which is good. This card also indicates looking overseas, which I do think will be the focus. We already see Russia coming up a lot around this topic. So I think we will continue expanding in that direction. And of course, when I say Russia, I mean Putin's regime and the corrupt oligarchy there, not the Russian people who are mostly just good, innocent people.
What else can we know about what's going on right now? Nine of Wands, it's a feeling of being trapped. So people are scared, yeah. I mean, what a picture. It's sort of like terror, you know? It is. And this woman feels sort of trapped in this terror. What is the environment? Two of Swords. Interesting, we have a Two of Wands, Two of Swords. Oh, and this is defensiveness, wanting to protect oneself. And there's a little bit of not knowing what to do, which I think is where, say, Biden is right now. Maybe they don't know what to do with what's happening, and they don't want to terrify people, right?
I keep thinking the U.S. knows what this is, but they're not sure what to do because there's some treaty that's been broken in the usage of this weapon, and there are confidentiality issues for public safety. So it's like they're stuck in a couple of ways and putting it off, pretending it's not there, which is exactly what this card signifies. And it explains the softening of the wording. And part of it is surely that they just don't want to say anything to indicate weakness or panic, which would play right into the enemy's hands. And so they're taking as much time as they can to figure it out. And that said, there's a kind of strength to the character in this card, this stance of calm under fire. And that's the approach I think they're taking, and probably the best approach.
Hopes and fears. I feel like there's more going on than like I've been feeling for a while. It's almost like there's something called, that I actually read about today, fifth generational warfare. I feel like we're almost like, well, we've seen it for years, this sort of war of disinformation. It's like we're in a war that we don't recognize or understand because it's a new kind of war. And I sometimes I think, do they not want us to realize? They want to keep, everybody feeling safe because it's scary to think something like that. I don't know.
So what I had actually read about was fourth generation warfare, because I had heard that term on a podcast I randomly listened to, totally unrelated to this reading. But in that research, I did look at fifth generation warfare, which I also found interesting based on some things we're experiencing right now. And I'll define both here because I'm realizing now how spot on this information feels for this reading, and that it's no coincidence I came across it. I definitely feel it's all very related to this topic. By the way, the podcast I listened to was called The Big History Behind January 6th by David Troy, and I listened on SoundCloud. It's really short little episodes if you're interested. So these generations of warfare were predictions basically on the future of warfare conceived in 1980 by some United States analysts, so anyone into military tactics would be well versed in this. The simplest definition of fourth generation warfare is a complex and long-term war in which one of the major participants is not a state, but rather a violent non-state actor. So a spread out network of communication and financial support with a non-national or transnational base, highly decentralized, which is exactly what I was feeling about this network, being without borders, but more based in principles, shared principles. Tactics used in this type of warfare include terrorism and guerrilla tactics, meaning irregular warfare in which small groups of combatants, such as paramilitary, armed civilians, or in this case, I'd say invisible forces, use military tactics including ambushes, sabotage, raids, petty warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and mobility in order to fight a larger and less mobile traditional military and undermine the power and authority of an established system or institution. Fifth generation warfare was a more recently conceived and defined type of new warfare, which will sound very familiar, I'm sure. This is warfare conducted primarily through non-kinetic military action, such as social engineering, misinformation, cyber attacks, along with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and fully autonomous systems. It has also been described as a war of information and perception. So, of course, this takes me to everything we're seeing with disinformation being spread online and other cyber attacks that are happening. And I don't mean to say anything to spread fear. I really believe that understanding this is helpful. And the fact is, we're seeing crazy things around the world that we don't understand, and I believe it's empowering to understand it. I just found this article that breaks down in scholarly detail exactly what I'm talking about, focusing much on how Donald Trump's speeches and rhetoric set the stage for this type of warfare, creating these little armies, and how the conservative religious right long before him often even openly stated their systematic intent to use these tactics to destroy all that is not them. It's a very long, well-sourced, and chilling article called Battle Without Bullets, The Christian Right and Fourth Generation Warfare by James Caminacci, 2017. I will share it in the notes section.
Hopes and fears. Seven of Wands. So the Seven of Wands is standing one's ground. But it's a standing one's ground when you're being attacked. So I would say that sort of ties into, like, for instance, what does Biden do? What does our government do to protect the people, to protect itself? And, like, is it going to get worse? Are there going to be more and more reports of this? That's the fear. And, it's hopes and fears. So for someone else, it's the hope.
And on the flip side, as this hopes and fears card always has, you could imagine the enemy also feels in a twisted way that they are standing their ground, as they do believe in their own superiority and entitlement to be top dogs forever. We know there are some wealthy and white and patriarchal who feel they are being pushed off their pedestal, as Tucker Carlson rants about every night on his show. So that's definitely here as well. This is a war of who will stand their ground and survive.
Long-term outcome of this Havana Syndrome situation. Four of Coins. This is actually sort of a self-protective card. It makes me feel like they're still going to be holding back information. to the extent that they can. What else though? And long term doesn't mean forever. It just means sort of the outcome of this right now. Queen of Coins. What else? The Chariot. And Justice. And here we've got the Emperor at the base. You know, this Four of Coins, it can also be like stability. So that's interesting. With Justice and the Chariot and a stability card, I mean, like the Chariot, like I think we're going to go after whoever has done this. Does that mean we get information on whoever has done this? And, you know, with the Justice card, it's like, that's also a balance card. This would be like going after whoever has been the cause of this. The only thing I can't figure out so far is the Queen of Coins. This seems like a person coming forward with information. Information that perhaps helps us to go after whoever is to blame here. And I do like the Justice card beneath the surface in creating stability and all that and going after this attacker. Yeah, it's like someone's like almost like, I've got the coin, I've got the information. I wonder if that could even be isn't there a woman at the head of the CIA? That sort of thing, sort of coming out and saying, here's the information. But
I happened to see just now that the Director of National Intelligence is a woman named Avril Haines, and she, along with the Director of the CIA, who is actually a man now, William J. Burns, did open a wide-ranging investigation into the Havana Syndrome attacks earlier this summer, which is expected to conclude before the end of the year. But that could change, and there's no public report planned. I think this is her as the Queen of Pentacles handing in that report, and I hope it will be public. And with that Justice card beneath the surface, rising up as things beneath the surface do, I wonder if there will be some kind of trial or ruling that helps us go after this kind of attack, as we see in that Chariot card. And somehow through all this, we do manage to maintain that stability that we see in that Four of Pentacles.
it's not like I'm getting the Sun where it's like the light is shined upon everything, but I am getting justice and stability. And at least enough to know who to go after with this Chariot. This can also be information coming out fast and strong, so that's good. So yeah, I am just feeling here like this makes me feel like it's like a feeling of vulnerability that actually really does exist. And I'm feeling that even like in our own government on how to handle this. There's a feeling, I hate to say that our own government could feel vulnerable, but that's what I'm feeling here. But ultimately I do see some kind of evidence, because a pentacle isn't necessarily information, but it can be evidence. Yep, we're entering a strange new world, that Two of Wands. This Ten of Coins is a total like mystery, but it, you know, of who are these money people beneath the surface? Is this foreign, domestic, or all of it? There's this laughter in this card that is just like, feels maniacal, you know? But it's a real thing, and it's strong, and it really is mysterious, using technologies that at least we don't understand about. And I do think it's trying to knock down our power, our structure, I'm afraid. I mean, that's a big thing to say. But it's no surprise. I mean, hasn't Putin been trying to do that to us with Donald Trump and all the other chaos and disinformation? It's all trying to do this to America. And maybe that's who this is, King of Swords. the information, although I feel this to be more, this is like an intelligent agent stealing information is what I'm feeling that to be. Whereas this emperor, though, could be Putin, the Hierophant. I knew the government and Ten of Swords is trying to just put an end to, you know, it is like an act of war. That's what I feel here in this. This is an act of war. The emperor could be the patriarchy. It could be one leader, like, for instance, Putin, who has been trying to create this tower for America for a long time. But it's almost like a group. I mean, the Hierophant brings me to, it's not just, it's like a government that was created outside of necessarily the American government or any other. It's like a government that exists. Shadow government? Trying to end things the way they are. Probably trying to like end democracy. Wheel of Fortune, though, I would say this was meant to happen. This stuff all needs to come out. Yeah, Two of Cups points to that sort of partnership. Man, there's so many major arcana, just one after the other. The Star, the Hanged Man upside down, the Lovers. The Hanged Man upside down just tells me, like, it's time. Like, no more waiting. Like, this is like, they've been waiting for this for a long time, and they're like, it's time. That's really creepy. The Star. This, like, takes me to the technology, some technologies that we don't understand. From the stars, I'm not saying aliens are bad, but maybe this ties into a lot of that, like I keep thinking of that, the technologies that we don't understand in the new recent report on the UFOs, the speed and velocity and the way these ships move that they've caught on camera, they don't understand it. And like, this sort of reminds me of it. Like, they don't understand these weapons. Or if they do, we don't, as the people sitting here, we don't understand. And we need that to be brought out to the light for us, please. We can handle it. Even if it scares us. So that's my read on that. I feel like what I got out of this is, mostly just that it's real and it's meant to create chaos and instability. Instability, that's what that is. It's trying to create instability. But what we have at the end is stability. So we'll get back there. And justice. So I'm happy about that. So that's my read on that. Let me know if you had any thoughts or if there's anything else you're interested in me reading on. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.